Alright guys, here today at Garcia Moto going over the two beasts of the cruiser class. K1600 bagger Grand America and the Indian Roadmaster. And yes, a lot of you will think, well, these are a lot of different bikes. Yes, they are in a lot of ways, but they are intended for a lot of the same purposes. So today I'm just going to walk through features of each, kind of compare them, and then you can either come by and ride them at Garcia Moto, or maybe this is enough information to go ahead and make up your mind for you of what your next bike is. So let's go ahead and hop on this bagger first. A lot of cool things with these big bikes is, one, don't have to stick a key in them. Both are keyless as long as you have the fob. So go ahead and start her up there in the middle. Alright, this bike is comfortable. Okay, so let's go over the basics here. So you can lock your baggage with this key. Mode is standard driving BMW modes like you've always seen if you've been on a BMW bike. Road, dynamic, rain mode. You have an adjustable windscreen here at the front that goes all the way up, so if you're on the highway, that'll help a lot. Also, you have a reverse mode, which is fantastic, which pretty much you just press reverse, then go back, you're good to go. And then you press it off and it returns back to neutral, you're ready to go. Adjustable brake, adjustable clutch, cruise control, and a whole host of menu items, from fuel consumption, rain, all your trip stuff, handlebar heat, even seat heaters on this thing. So that's pretty awesome. So as far as audio, you do have a full radio in here as well, so you're not going to be able to hear that well, but let's go ahead and go for it. Alright guys, let's go ahead and take it to get some gas and go from there. So after being on GS bikes, I have an S1000XR. This is comfortable. This is a highway couch. And it feels good, let me tell you what. All the features in the world, so that's awesome. And I'm excited to get this thing going. So what I'm gonna do here is grab some gas, and then we'll get back to it here in a second. Alright guys, we are back on the bagger, got some gas, and we're gonna take it to where this thing shines. Right on the highway. It is 82 degrees in Raleigh, North Carolina today. A little bit hot. It feels good when you're riding. I'm interested to see the wind protection on this thing. So also, you do get a year of Sirius XM on this bike if you buy it, which is awesome because you have a pretty substantial speaker system on here. Down here, I forgot to mention, you do have modes. That'll take you between satellite. So this is a preview channel right here, so I can take it up right here. So this thing can get pretty loud. So you got two tweeters up above. You've got these two main speakers right here. And then your BMW GPS can go right there in the middle. Man, this thing is comfortable. And you do on the Grand America have that back seat rest. They do make another bagger variation without the backrest, but in order for this to be compared to the Roadmaster, thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and have a bike that sat and felt probably close to the same on the highway. But other than that, have standard BMW handlebars with standard features minus, you know, the advanced stuff like reverse. that you'll see on virtually, not reverse, but you'll see a lot of these features on any other BMW bike. Yeah, this thing is literally, feels like I'm in a car. Probably one of the smoothest, if not the smoothest bike I have ever been on in my life, just being honest. It feels like I feel nothing, absolutely nothing on the road. Like, I don't feel a bump. I just feel like I'm kind of gliding right now. Shift's really smooth as well. Pops into neutral really easily. And just like always, we're gonna go ahead and take this thing up to dynamic mode. Dynamic mode in BMW bikes, if you're not familiar, usually harden up the suspension a little bit, make the throttle response a little bit tweakier, which I prefer. And we'll mess with the traction control, so the bike will take off a little bit faster according to how much throttle you give it. Let's go ahead and give it a little gas. Feels good. So a lot of you guys might say, well, BMW has nothing to do with a Indian motorcycle. Why would you compare that? And just to be honest, there's been a lot of people that's come into Garcia and bought a BMW that end up coming back and getting an Indian, and there's been a lot of people that come and get an Indian that end up going with BMW. There are certain aspects about these bikes that will appeal to a certain rider, and you might not even know it till you either get on one or see the features that it has. Because this is virtually BMW's equivalent to a Goldwing by Honda. And a Goldwing looks even more like a Roadmaster. It's just obviously different engine. This thing's more tuned towards performance. And I mean, I've never been on a Roadmaster. We're gonna get on that in a little bit once I hit the highway, but I'm thoroughly impressed with this bike. I've never, and just disclaimer, I have never ridden on a bagger before, nor have I ever been on a Roadmaster. Standard turn signal operation per BMW, click left or click right, and to disengage you click in. Bright lights are up on your trigger finger. And if anybody lives in North Carolina, trigger finger reference makes sense to you because we all shoot guns. So I'm gonna go ahead and test out this windshield, see what happens with me. So I'm 6 foot tall, and this windshield covers me almost all the way. I feel nothing. All right, I got an 18 wheeler. Let's go ahead and take this thing out. Getting used to the gear shifting a little bit on this. You have to shift a little bit faster. Oh man, you could take a long trip on this bike. This seat is really comfortable. Feels super stable. Very stable on the highway. Like I said, this is the first bike I've been on that almost feels like I'm inside of like a car or a convertible. Let me see if I put this windshield down, how much I feel. So you can probably hear how much more wind is hitting me now. That is substantial. So I'm gonna put that right back up. And it is gone. So I feel almost more wind from the back of my helmet now than from the front, which is a weird, definitely a weird feeling, but again, it feels like I'm virtually in a convertible. And if you're not riding your bike today, I don't know what you're doing with your life, is all I'm saying. Trash can in the road. Let's give it some gas. Auto blipper, I just noticed that. I don't know why I didn't notice that yet. So upshift and downshift, this thing will rev match on the downshift. So here I am, I'm gonna downshift without pulling in the clutch. Downshifted, and it really lets you go after it. And BMW motorcycles, you can't really go wrong with any of them, just being honest. They're all phenomenal machines. This could be a separate option to somebody who is looking at a GS but technically doesn't want to go, wants to be in a more cruiser-like position. I will say that this is probably more comfortable even than a GS. It's definitely smoother. It just feels like I'm on a cloud. The horn, that is the loudest horn I've ever heard in a motorcycle. It's like a car horn in this thing, man. What in the heck? But if you're interested in finding out any more of the features on this that I didn't specifically go over, just come on up, sit on one, turn it on, take it for a test drive. See why it might be the next bike for you to get into, because I really enjoy this. I could literally just be on this thing all day long. Yeah, K1600 Grand America. Come check it out at Garcia Moto off of Capitol Boulevard in Raleigh, North Carolina. Alright guys, now we have switched to a Roadmaster. Never been on this bike before, never been on one of these big Indian bikes. Definitely sounds different. First thing that you'll notice is we do have a GPS. Also, really nice, easy screen to navigate. You got tire pressure, fuel range, how many miles to oil change. Pretty much some great diagnostic stuff here. Your radio as well. You do have the same type of sound system in this, if not a little bit better, probably. You got a little bit bigger speakers on this bike. You got music. It's like radio right here. Switch radio stations. Also, if you hit that again, you can switch between AM, FM, weather radio, Bluetooth, and you can put your USB in, just like you can on the K1600 as well. That's another shortcut to get there. If you're riding at night, you can turn this thing all the way off. Other than that, same type of windshield that goes up and down, turn signals. This controls your GPS depth. Got riding lights right here. Cruise control, whole 9 yards. Well, let's go ahead and get some gas and head on out. Let's just see, how many of you guys have had both an Indian and a BMW? Because I know there's this whole, I'm always a cruiser guy, or I'm always going to be a BMW guy, but it would be cool to see who has had one of each, or who has both, or who has switched from one to the other. So if you could let us know. Alright, before we get back on this thing, let's hop on the back. Kind of get a vibe of how this would feel. I think I could sit back here, honestly. We got a lot of space. Got these giant foot pegs. Solid. This thing does have roll bars on it, on the back and the front. Cases do lock as well. Lock and unlock are right here. As far as hand warmers, you've got the same thing going on here. Alrighty, let's take this bad boy out. The first impression, this definitely feels a little bit more low to the ground, a little bit more raw than the K1600. I mean, just doing obvious things. The clutch lets out a whole lot sooner on this than it does on the K1600. And you gotta realize this are very different bikes, so brakes are good. We're gonna take this on the same highway test as well. So this does have a heel shifter on it, right down there. So pretty much you kick your heel, it will shoot the other side up like you were shifting into second. So kick it into first, then kick it down from the back, and you're good to go there. This feels very comfortable as well. Obviously the other thing with this is the feet position is a lot different, which is probably an obvious thing. Much more torque in the low end. Sounds good. I like this. So this is really intuitive. This bike is pretty much putting modern features that you would see in a BMW type of bike into a raw, you know, your traditional motorcycle, and I like that. See how far this windshield goes up. So it kind of rotates up instead of up and out like the BMW. The BMW goes up a little bit further, but I think if you did that far up on this bike, it would be a little overkill. Let's give it a little gas over here. I feel like I'm a little bit more pushed to the front of this bike, whereas with the bagger, I feel like I'm set back a little bit more. The engine is more smooth, not as torque oriented. So as far as these two, I feel like you'll find your obvious winner pretty quickly just by the feel, because when it comes to motorcycles, I always tell people, get the thing that feels the most comfortable to you, because that's going to be what you're much less likely to put down or get in a wreck, because something like ride height should not get in the way, or something like comfortable seating position should not get in the way. Just a much more organic feeling bike as far as traditional versus the modern aesthetic of the bagger. Does feel, I guess it is the seating position. It feels lighter between my legs, feels low. Let's go ahead and take this windscreen up, see how far it deflects the wind over my head. So I'm getting a little bit more buffeting with this bike. I am 6 foot tall though, so if you're like 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" even, I feel like this wind will be over your head. But the other thing about this is, you know, a lot of these types of bikes don't even have windshields. But it is important, you know, if you're going on a long trip, you're not getting buffeted by the wind that much. I mean, it's not anywhere close to what you would feel on any other type of bike from BMW or a naked bike. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for strictly comparison purposes, there is more wind protection on the bagger. You do have GPS speed on this as well, so you have your regular speedometer and you have the speed down there at the bottom, which is pretty cool. So in regards to these big bikes, I don't think you should be pushed off to like, oh, I don't need a big bike as my first bike. I've never been on this bike and I feel super comfortable on it within 5-10 minutes, okay? It's not a big learning curve. Even for me, I'm used to my feet being faced more to the back and a little bit more forward riding position. But it's not a huge change. Honestly, it feels like I'm more stable on a bike like this. See it downshifting. In regards to these Indians, they come with 111s on them. Power feels fine. If you do want more power, they do have 1/16 big bore kits that Garcia can put on these bikes for you, which really take it up a notch. Feels good in the corners. Seat is super comfortable. Brakes are very smooth. Other than that, guys, come check these bikes out. Give one a test drive, because they're both comparable but very different. So you don't have the modern features like auto blip, but this bike isn't meant for that type of riding. You don't need to be going ham. This is meant for cruising. That's good. Get up to speed. Another thing in regards to this bike, you know, you're revving to 6K, whereas about 10K on the bagger. So if you're on a BMW bike that revs pretty high, you'll have to get used to that. I hope this has helped you guys maybe decide which cruiser type bike to get next, whether it's a Roadmaster or a bagger. But they're both awesome, both super comfortable, both really practical for having a passenger on the back, loaded with features, all the best stuff from Indian and BMW are on both these bikes, and they both have most of the same features. But yeah, I hope you guys are having a great week. Give us a call at 919-834-5111 at Garcia Moto, and we'll get you into your next bike.